WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Niamey. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink, live from West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Leaders from G24 member countries converge on Abuja for a conference on global financial reforms.
Our deliberations in 2026 TGM will focus on the key issues relating to the Bretton Woods at 80 reform initiative.
A Ghanaian delegation arrives in Ouagadougou for a joint commission conference later today. Gambian Speaker of Parliament Jatta in Malawi to strengthen legislative relations.
The establishment of a parliamentary friendship group between the Gambia and Malawi to foster regular dialogue and cooperation, staff exchange programs between our clerks' offices to share best practices.
And Burkina Faso reports decline in malaria deaths by 48%. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast this afternoon. We begin in Nigeria, the capital Abuja, where a lot of countries hosting G24 technical group meeting gets underway. The conference brings together finance leaders and technical experts from developing economies to align positions on global financial reforms on sustainable growth. With Nigeria chairing this year's meeting, discussions are focusing on mobilizing finance for inclusive and job-rich economic transformation. WADR's correspondent Yeche Nusasetu reports.
Representatives from G24 member countries have gathered to discuss reforms to the international financial system, debt sustainability, climate finance, and digital transformation ahead of talks with global financial institutions. Head of the G24 Secretariat, Iyabo Masha, said the meeting aims to strengthen coordination among developing nations and build common positions on key economic issues.
Our deliberations in 2026 TGM will focus on the key issues relating to the Bretton Woods at 80 reform initiative, which is not really a replacement of the system, but a call for renewal and rebirth.
As the current G24 chair, Nigeria is using the meeting to explore financing pathways that support long-term development and economic resilience. Coordinating Minister of Finance Wale Edun highlighted government efforts to stabilize the economy through fiscal reforms, revenue mobilization, and policies to restore investor confidence. Central Bank Governor Yemi Cardoso emphasized the need for efficient integrated payment systems across Africa.
Africa's experience with the Pan-Africa Payment and Settlement System, PAPS, offers a powerful lesson for the G24 in building modern, inclusive payment systems. PAPS demonstrates how developing regions can create homegrown, interoperable infrastructure that reduces reliance on external correspondent banks, lowers settlement costs, and enable instant local currency cross-border payments.
Officials say the technical discussions will inform policy positions at upcoming global financial meetings, helping developing economies strengthen their voice in international economic governance. For WADR, Yeche Nusasetu in Abuja.
Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Ablakwa is in Ouagadougou for a two-day official visit. During his stay, the minister will lead Ghana's delegation to the 13th Joint Cooperation Commission between Ghana and Burkina Faso. The visit comes in the immediate aftermath of a deadly attack on February 14, which claimed the lives of 8 Ghanaian tomato traders in northern Burkina Faso. From Accra, Nadedetete reports.
The Ghanaian Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa was received at the Ouagadougou International Airport by his Burkinabe counterpart Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré and Ghana's ambassador to Burkina Faso Kenneth Akibate. He is leading a high-powered delegation including Ghana's special envoy to the Alliance of Sahel States for the ministerial meeting scheduled for February 20 in the Burkinabe capital. Ahead of his departure, the minister visited injured survivors of the attack at the 37 military hospital in Accra. The victims were airlifted back to Ghana by the Ghana Air Force for treatment. Talks at the Joint Cooperation Commission are expected to focus on strengthening bilateral relations, enhancing cross-border security, and addressing growing threats within the sub-region. Government has condemned the killings and is seeking closer collaboration with Burkina Faso to ensure the safety of Ghanaian nationals operating across the region. Here is special aid to President Mahama Joyce Bar Mokhtari.
That's why the best thing is to visit the country, because they would also support you. I don't think that any leader will be happy that people like that have been attacked. I mean, harmless people, traders, for example, they don't deserve this. Unfortunate as it is, we have to find a lasting solution to sustain the peace, to sustain the safety, to ensure that our borders are also safe from such future attacks and all of that. I think that every effort is being made to use diplomatic channels to ensure that these things do not happen again. The idea is not to inflame passions, for example, and the idea is to ensure that as much as possible we use negotiations and diplomacy.
For WDR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
Meanwhile, the Speaker of the Gambia's National Assembly, Fabakary Tombong is in Malawi for a 6-day working visit. The Gambian delegation, including members of the Assembly Business Committee and parliamentary staff, arrived in Lilongwe on Sunday ahead of a series of official engagements. The trip is aimed at strengthening parliamentary cooperation, focused on committee systems, procedural reforms, and improving oversight of public resources. WDR's Sandona Mendy tells us more.
Addressing the Malawian National Assembly on Thursday, Speaker Jatta said Africa's development and democratic progress depend on strong and accountable institutions.
Democracy is not sustained by elections alone, but by the strong institutions, accountable leadership, and parliaments that truly represent the will of the people. Our citizens do not judge parliaments by the elegance of our chambers, but by the impact of our decisions.
Fabakary Tombong Jatta recommended practical steps to deepen ties. He said such measures will amplify Africa's voice on the global stage.
The establishment of a parliamentary friendship group between the Gambia and Malawi to foster regular dialogue and cooperation, staff exchange programs between our clerks' offices to share best practices in procedural services, committee support, Hansard reporting, legislative drafting, and parliamentary digitalization, and joint collaboration in international parliamentary fora, where Africa must speak with one voice on issues of global justice, climate resilience, peace, and development.
The study tour by the Gambian delegation will continue throughout the week, with both sides pledging to deepen cooperation and strengthen ties between their parliaments. For the Gambia and Malawi, the visit reflects renewed solidarity and a shared commitment to working with other African legislatures to advance democratic governance and economic transformation across the continent. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdona Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now, elsewhere in Benin, a delegation from the National Democratic Institute, NDR, has carried out a series of visits to key institutions as part of preparations for the April 2026 elections. The mission, both technical and consultative, reflects growing attention to the pre-election environment and efforts to strengthen the democratic process. Usma Uma has the rest of the details.
The delegation met with several parties involved in the preparations for the April presidential election. These included the National Autonomous Electoral Commission, CENA, political leaders, civil society organizations, and media representatives. The objective was to identify organizational challenges and propose support to strengthen transparency and inclusivity during this election. Christopher Fomuyo, is Projects Officer for Africa at the National Democratic Institute.
We reflected on the success Benin achieved during the wave of democratic transitions across the continent. It is our hope and indeed our expectation that Benin will continue along that path. Once a country has taken on a leadership role, it must strive to remain an example. Benin is being encouraged to continue setting the standard for inclusive, transparent and credible elections so that other nations can follow suit and take pride in what can be achieved together.
The key issues in the April presidential election include the inclusive participation of political forces, trust between stakeholders and institutions, and the credibility of the legal and organizational framework.
Usma Omar reporting that development. Let's take you elsewhere. In Cote d'Ivoire, partial legislative elections are scheduled for Saturday, February 21, 2026 in the constituencies of Douala, Massala and Tumudi. In the latter constituency, considered a historical stronghold of the main opposition party, the PDCR, the battle remains very decisive. However, the ruling party, RHDP, which already holds 197 seats in parliament, aims to win this contest, while opposition Tijan Cham's party wants to confirm that the municipality remains its stronghold. Elsewhere in Guinea, the appeals chamber of the Court for the Repression of Economic and Financial Offences, known as CREF, was unable to hear two high-profile cases as scheduled. The cases involve former Prime Minister Ibrahim Kassory Fofana and former Defense Minister Mohamed Jaini, who both served under ex-President Alpha Conde. The section ended without progress after the Special Prosecutor's Office failed to appear. The court has now adjourned the cases to March 5, 2026. Sankula Janko has more in the following report.
The court session lasted only a few minutes, just long enough for judges to note the absence of the Special Prosecutor's Office. Neither Special Prosecutor Ali Toure nor any of his deputies appeared in court. The case of Mohamed Jiani, former defense minister under ex-president Alpha Conde, was expected to be the focus of submissions from the prosecution and arguments from the defense. The defense lawyer Almami Samoure Traore strongly criticized the situation, noting that proceedings have dragged on for nearly a year. He recalled that an earlier panel of judges had already examined the case before an incident led to their replacement at a time when the trial was almost complete. According to the defense, repeated postponements are unnecessarily prolonging his client's detention. The lawyer also questioned the weight of the charges brought against officials of the former regime. He further claimed that a court order for the release had not been enforced, despite Article 160 of the Supreme Court law, which provides for the immediate release of an acquitted defendant. Meanwhile, lawyers for Dr. Ibrahima Kassory Fofana, who served as Prime Minister under Alpha Conde, raised concerns about his deteriorating health. In the absence of medical evacuation for appropriate treatment, they are requesting that he be heard from his hospital bed so that proceedings can continue.
Sankula Janko reporting there. Mali's Banjagara region continues to host refugees fleeing insecurity from neighboring Burkina Faso. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, there is a sharp rise in the number of Burkinabe refugees arriving in the eastern region of the Sahelan state. According to figures released at the end of December 2025, more than 71,000 refugees are now registered in the area. Since April of last year, over 51,000 new arrivals have been recorded. An additional 6,000 people are still registered. Christopher Atichu tells us more in this report.
UNHCR says many of the new arrivals are fleeing villages in northern Burkina Faso near the Malian border. Provinces frequently cited include Yatenga and Lorun, with families coming from communities such as Mene, Bongole, Pela, Ngani, Poso and Andekanda. Other assessments also mention Berigondogo, Gona, Yassa and Madugu as areas of origin. Most of those crossing into Koro, located in Mali's Bandiagara region, are women and children. The displacement follows months of persistent insecurity in rural border areas, forcing families to abandon their home and farmland. In Koro and surrounding municipalities, the majority of refugees are being hosted by local communities. UNHCR explains that registration and humanitarian assistance efforts are continuing in coordination with local authorities and aid partners. The UN agency, however, warns that the growing influx is placing heavy pressure on basic services, including water supply, healthcare, education, and shelter.
Christopher Watichu reporting there. Still in Burkina Faso, the health ministry has revealed that the country witnessed a 48% decrease in malaria-related deaths in 2025. Addressing a cabinet meeting on Thursday, Health Minister Robert Jean-Claude Kagougou said malaria deaths saw a sharp decline from 30,523 in 2024 to 1,900 in 2025. The minister attributes the decline to strengthened governance and firm national leadership in the fight against malaria. In Burkina Faso, tens of millions of people are affected by malaria. According to the World Health Organization, malaria remains a public health problem in Burkina Faso, with an estimated 12.23 million cases in 2021. However, during the cabinet meeting, Burkina Faso Minister Kagougou revealed that the country, through effective policies such as the Target Malaria Project, the widespread distribution of long-lasting insecticide-treated bed nets, and the seasonal malaria convention, the country reported a historic 48% reduction in malaria-related deaths in 2025. You are listening to Newslink live on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Leaders from G24 members countries converge on Abuja for a conference on global financial reforms. A Ghanaian delegation arrives in Ouagadougou for a joint commission conference later today. Gambian Speaker of Parliament Jatta in Malawi to strengthen legislative relations. And Burkina Faso reports decline in malaria deaths by 48%. Still ahead in the news, we have guest interview and sports. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for being with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. The Malian government, through the Ministry of Education and UNICEF, have signed a memorandum of understanding to boost research in support of children's rights. The Bamako UNICEF partnership focuses on 4 priority areas, including children's rights, health, education, and social and behavioral change. The agreement signed on Thursday aims to mobilize universities at a time when the Sahelan country is facing an educational crisis. Imo Edit completes the story.
Mali has around 10 public universities and more than 200 private higher education institutions. Authorities hope to tap into this academic network to promote applied research on national priorities, including improving learning outcomes, reducing school dropout rates, and strengthening child protection. Through closer links between research and policy making, UNICEF and the Malian government say they aim to make social interventions more effective in the face of ongoing demographic, educational, and security challenges. The partnership seeks to strengthen national research capacity and promote locally generated data to better guide public policy. The move comes as more than 3.3 million school-age children were out of school in 2024 alone. Last year, more than 2,000 schools remained closed due to insecurity, affecting more than 600,000 students, mainly in the central and northern regions. Under the 2026 Humanitarian Response Plan, some 3.8 million people, representing nearly 15% of the population, are expected to need assistance, as insecurity and social vulnerabilities continue to limit access to basic services.
That's Imo Edit reporting. In Liberia, the government is stepping up efforts to strengthen its economy and protect consumers with the official launch of the Liberia Standards Authority, or LISA. The move signals the country's commitment to building a quality infrastructure in line with international standards, creating a level playing field for businesses and boosting confidence in Liberian products at home and abroad. The launch ceremony brought together representatives of the European Union, the United Nations, business leaders and public, including private sector investors. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Ephraim Parker reports.
The Liberia Standards Authority has officially commissioned its newly rehabilitated headquarters and unveiled what it calls Liberia's first national quality mark. Speaking during the ceremony, Director General Stephen Mampu said the institution is now better equipped to enforce the standards, certify products, and safeguard consumers.
Without standards, there is no effort. Without certification, there is no confidence. Without quality assurance, there is no sustainable trade. LISA therefore stands at the intersection of science, safety.
The European Union ambassador to Liberia, Nona Depress, reaffirmed the EU's continued commitment to supporting Liberia's development agenda.
The commissioning of this fit-for-purpose standards authority today is particularly significant in view of the Liberia-EU Business Forum, reliable standardization.
With improved infrastructure, trained staff, and a clear 5-year roadmap, the Liberia Standards Authority says it is poised to play a more decisive role in driving economic growth, enhancing consumer protection, and boosting Liberia's reputation as a trusted trading partner. The new national quality mark is expected to serve as a seal of compliance, assuring both local consumers and international partners of the safety and quality of Liberian goods. For Newslink on WADR, Ephraim Parker, Monrovia.
Politics,
analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview segment focuses on Guinea as the appeals chamber of the Court for the Repression of Economic and Financial Offences known as the CREAF was unable to hear two high-profile cases as scheduled. The cases involve former Prime Minister Ibrahim Kassory Fofana and former Defense Minister Mohamed Jaini, who both served during the regime of former President Alpha Conde. The session ended without progress after the Special Prosecutor's Office failed to appear. Amami Samori, one of Kassory Fofana's lawyers, is our guest this afternoon.
We are very disappointed, very disappointed. And we even consider this absence to be a boycott of the court by the Special Prosecutor's Office. This is because 2 days ago, one of the fellow detainees, Dr. Ibrahim Kuruma, a former minister under President Alpha Conde, was acquitted by the Court of Appeals, which overturned all charges against him after 4 years of arbitrary detention. I'll put it that way. So the prosecutor's office hasn't accepted this decision and has even refused to implement it because, as I speak to you, we're still in prison.
You have been requesting a medical evacuation for your client for months to no avail. What is his condition today?
Dr. Kassory is in a very worrying condition. I am telling you now. I am very serious when I say his condition is very worrying because there are medical reports and counter-expertise ordered at the request of the special prosecutor. And these counter-expertises confirm the information given by the initial doctors. And just recently, 4 or 5 days ago, another report came out, which is very alarming. I personally spoke with the prison doctor when the report was released. So it is very worrying, and we submitted a request for a medical evacuation to the court. And that's why we are shocked, because this request was supposed to be examined by the court. But with the absence of the prosecutor's office, unfortunately, this request could not be examined.
The hearing has been postponed until March 5. You said it's possible he might speak from his hospital bed. So until then, what action will you take to ensure your client is heard?
Yes. The law, the Code of Criminal Procedure, has a provision that allows a court for health reasons to appoint a judge and a clerk to hear the defendant in their hospital bed if their health condition requires them to be unable to travel to court. So we also submitted this request to the court so that this can be done, because Dr. Kasi hasn't fled justice. He wants to defend himself, but under better conditions. So we filed it, and we are waiting for the court to rule on this request. This request was supposed to be granted. You understand why we are very, very disappointed and even angry about the absence of the prosecution at this hearing.
The fact remains that your client was sentenced almost a year ago to 5 years in prison for embezzlement of public funds, illicit arrangement, and money laundering. What are your hopes for the appeal?
To tell you the truth, we hope to win this appeal because, once again, the case against Dr. Castro is empty, completely empty, and we don't even need much evidence to prove it. When it is said that he embezzled 15 billion Guinean francs and that this amount was in the treasury account when Dr. Castro left his position, we have the balance, which is included in the case file. So we don't need to look elsewhere. We are confident. It's like the case of Dr. Ibrahima Kuruma, who was accused of embezzling 642 billion Guinean francs. But you see how that accusation fizzled out? It collapsed on its own, and the judges drew the necessary conclusions. So there's no reason why we shouldn't win the case. Our only difficulty lies in our client's health. That's why we found an alternative. Failing a medical evacuation, allow the judge to be appointed by the court to hear him in this hospital bed. He will defend himself, and we will present our case.
Amami Samori is a Guinean lawyer. And in the world of sports, a Moroccan court has handed prison sentences to 18 Senegalese football supporters following a violent incident during the Africa Cup of Nations final earlier this year. The ruling, delivered on Thursday, saw fans sentenced to between 3 and 12 months behind bars over charges linked to hooliganism and disorderly conduct. The group had remained in custody since January 18, the day Morocco suffered a 1-0 defeat to Senegal in the AFCON final on home soil. Senegalese prosecutors says tensions escalated during the match, and they accused that intentionally disrupted the smooth conduct of the game, adding that the disturbances were broadcast live on television. Authorities also reported significant destruction at the stadium, estimating damages at more than 4 million Moroccan dirhams, equivalent to about $430,000. Evidence presented in court included surveillance footage from the stadium and medical reports detailing injuries sustained by security personnel and stadium officials. However, defense counsel Nama El Gulaf challenged the strength of the evidence, insisting that the video recording did not provide clear and undeniable proof that any of the accused physically assaulted security operatives or caused harm. That's the latest in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink, live in West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Mauro Juf for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, including X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English Service. I am Augustine Curley. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.